talking about unconventional referral partners. There's a number of reasons why we're addressing this topic today, but primarily the reason why unconventional referral partners are so important. Well, first of all, any business strategy will require a referral network. That's going to be the number one factor for reducing your customer acquisition cost, because you can divvy up the responsibility of acquiring customers if you have a good referral network. And I think everyone understands that. But typically we go after the traditional referral partners. But I think that by the end of today's call, you'll find that unconventional referral partners are much more effective than what we would traditionally call a referral partner. And this is something that oftentimes comes up when I'm talking to different partners in their sales strategies and consulting with them. What we find is they're oftentimes looking for that MSP or for that phone vendor, someone who can just refer them business. But because of the way different technologies are merging, these spaces are becoming blended, and it's not as clean cut as it used to be. And so, although these are still good referral partners, they're not necessarily the best anymore, which is one of the reasons why there's oftentimes a trade-off between local partners and quality of partners. And sometimes we feel obligated to go outside of our geographical constraints and try to work with partners anywhere, just trying to find the right types of partners. But my experience has shown that local partners, regardless of the company type or product that they sell, are almost always better than trying to find the traditional partner. And so if you had to decide between the two, in the long run, you're going to find that your local partners are going to be much more effective, primarily because you're going to be able to have more commonalities between you and the company. The chances of you having that relationship and that strength that makes these referral relationships work is going to be much more effective if you have those commonalities in place. Now, some of you may be asking, well, how would I partner with a bakery or a fire department or a hospital? Those are typically my customers, so how in the world would I do that? Well, I'm really glad that you asked that question, because that's really the purpose of today's call. Now, in order to make this strategy effective, we need to do one thing, and that's we need to divide the referral relationships into two different groups. One is going to be to a B2B group, and the other one's going to be a B2C group. We'll talk about the B2B strategy later, but let's talk about the B2C strategy, which is the more difficult one to execute. But once you understand how this works, it'll be much easier to understand how you would approach a bakery or a B2C organization and use them as a referral relationship. Primarily what we're going to be employing in terms of the strategy is what we call a group purchasing sales. And we've talked about this in the past, but the way this works is essentially you pre-negotiate discounted rates for a group of companies with different vendors, something that they'll be very happy to do, because essentially you're lowering their customer acquisition cost, because you're going to be consistently bringing one type of customer their way. So for instance, if you were to create a network of dentists across the country and negotiate a 20% discount on their phone service or on their bandwidth or on their SD-WAN services, you could essentially create a group purchasing sale, and everyone that joins this community would have access to that. And so what this does is it makes it possible for you to work with a single dentist and have them refer their friends who are also dentists, who maybe they met at a conference, something that they could recommend, people that they know, and essentially create a network where they can work together and basically get a discount for all of the services that they buy through you, which helps you differentiate yourself. It also enables them to create sort of their own lead exchange where they can refer business back and forth between clients. And so if one of their clients moves, or if they have family in another state, they can be a source for their clients to refer that business out to somewhere else. And so essentially, if you're working with a B2C type referral relationship, you're going to create a lead exchange and try to leverage their relationships with like-minded companies and have them refer them into your business because of this group purchasing discount. And then also you can help facilitate referrals between them and also provide education and any other types of best practices. I would recommend looking at our group purchasing training if you would like to review other additional items, but this is how the B2C strategy works. Now, the B2B strategy we've talked about a number of times, and we're going to continue to talk about this, but there's a lot of this is going to be a different angle. But just to kind of give you an idea of how this works, if you remember, if you participated in our business interruption insurance discussion, companies who sell commercial insurance, there's a specific type of package known as business interruption insurance where if companies' business is interrupted, let's say, by a natural disaster or a pandemic, or from rioting, for instance, their company would be covered by this insurance because of the interruption. Now, these insurance companies are the best referral sources for disaster recovery because they want their clients to stay online because they don't want them to have to go down. And so giving them access to disaster recovery and business continuity solutions is a hand-in-hand incentive. And so this is one of the reasons why these unconventional referral partners is a better fit than a traditional MSP because there's a stronger incentive for them to recommend your services. Another example is recruiters. Recruiters are they're crucial for companies that are at the crossroads of outsourcing. Companies come to them looking for IT managers, security solutions, for a number of things. Virtually everything that they come to them for is going to be something that they're considering to use internally. But sometimes it would make sense for them to outsource that. And so they are one of the greatest resources for a managed service type solution. And so when working with these, essentially what you're doing is you're giving them an alternative offering for their clients. So if they can't afford the IT manager, then offer them a managed service solution, something that can help them fulfill what their clients are looking for. And so we've seen a lot of great referral relationships when it comes to HR companies. Also, if you remember our IT security sales discussion, what we discovered in this call was that the greatest source of IT security referrals actually comes from banks. The reason being is banks are very interested in safeguarding the financial stability of a company. And if they are hacked or if there's a breach, that's one of the number one factors that brings a company down and essentially destroys the business. And so they have a natural incentive for them to actually make sure that their company's longevity is safeguarded through the right types of IT security and practices. And so IT security companies have found that these commercial loan officers are actually very interested in recommending different IT security solutions for their clients and become a great referral resource for you. Also, for enterprise sales, every government will have money set aside for attracting different companies, different incentives, different economic packages. And so if you understand the types of companies or incentives that they already have in place today and even network with these individuals, it's easy to have conversations with different companies who may need that and may need that push to take advantage of that and move into that market, and then you become part of that conversation. Now, these are just a few examples, but there's, again, let's go through a few other items because these are just a few ideas on how you can use these unconventional referral partners. But I've seen a lot of different accounting firms lately starting to work with different IT companies. In a very similar fashion to the banks, they also want to safeguard their customers' IT security, but they've also started recommending different products and services. For instance, if their particular accounting software works well with their phone system, they've started recommending different UCaaS platforms so that they can all be on the same page. Also, engineers are obviously interested in building projects, and construction companies are likewise. And so there's a commonality there that exists between you and them. You're both interested in companies that are moving, that are growing, they're working on different building projects in conjunction with the different governments who may be bringing different companies to your local market. Again, banks that are interested in the IT security of their end users in order to safeguard their clients. Software developers. if there was anything that could make a company sticky, that would be creating a custom integration between their UCaaS or their collaboration tools and a homegrown type of platform. And so software developers are probably a really strong source for different opportunities and different projects to help you get a lot deeper with your clients. I've seen a lot of different opportunities there where companies have a homegrown CRM, and they would really like the ability for that to have the efficiency of talking to their emails or their phone system. But they just need that middleware to make that work. Working with software developers who are developing maybe different CRM platforms or billing platforms for different clients, if you can educate them on the ability to have that software to talk to third-party applications who have open APIs, that would be a huge opportunity for you to build very strategic relationships with different clients. Also, again, we've talked about human resources. They're at the crossroads of a lot of different companies looking for different solutions, and maybe hiring in-house doesn't make sense, or maybe it's too expensive. Again, giving them that alternative gives them a much better position to help their clients, whatever their needs may be. Insurance, again, we've talked about that. Manufacturing, this is another one that there's a lot of different angles for this, but when it comes to manufacturing, one strategy that I found that works well is customer competitors. So all of these companies are going to have existing clients. And if you could just get that client list, you could instantly look up all of their competitors using Unsable, and then leveraging their relationship with these competitors' clients, it would be very easy to reach out and continue to run with that momentum that they have. Property management companies, again, companies on the move. Both of you and the property management companies are essentially working towards the same type of companies that are on the move, which are essentially always have great opportunities. If we're looking at the transportation space, there may not be a lot of direct opportunities, but something that I would employ here is a survey strategy. If you haven't looked at some of our survey trainings, what this is essentially is trying to understand the market, what people are looking for, what's changing, and using surveys as an excuse to create new opportunities and relationships with companies. Business consultants, obviously, they know a lot about what they're doing, but they don't know what you know. And so allowing them to bring you to the negotiation table, to the advisory table from the technology standpoint, that's huge for them. And essentially, because technology is going to play such an important role in helping them grow their business, they're going to need you there and your expertise. Law offices, again, oftentimes companies that outsource their law advisory, they're looking also for compliancy, trying to make sure that they're working with the right types of that they're being compliant from a regulatory standpoint. And so there's a lot of compliancy there, and so they may need your assistance in deploying technology that not only safeguards the company from potential lawsuits, but also making sure that they're not going to get in trouble. From an advertising standpoint, they're probably going to need different server solutions. If they're about to launch a massive product, imagine spending millions of dollars on an advertising campaign and then having the servers fail. And so partnering with different advertising companies, making sure that the servers have the top performance, that there's going to be a failover, that you have all the different aspects, making sure that the chat function on the website talks to the phone system, essentially doing whatever it takes to make sure that the technology helps their advertising campaigns function properly. Those are the types of ways that you can work with these different advertising companies. There's probably a lot of other ones, but just imagine the opportunities there. And this is why it's so much better to work with the non-traditional companies, because you can get much more strategic and there's less overlap. The advertising company is never going to be interested in selling their customer servers, but they are interested in the performance. And so your expertise and your value helps them provide both. And again, as we talked about before, government with the economic incentives. Now, I know we went through this fairly quickly. I didn't mean to go through it so quickly, but we are going to spend more time on each of these and additional. But I just wanted to get the wheels turning so you can kind of see how non-traditional referral partners can help you grow your business. And this is why you want to work in the local market, because that local market makes the relationships stronger and easier to facilitate. You don't have to go too far because there's plenty of businesses in your local area to help accomplish these goals. Now, if you got our email, we have launched a referral partner recruiting tool, which essentially you can put in your local zip, your email, and we'll go out and find those partners for you. So what happens is we'll actually introduce you to local businesses in the market, mention that you're interested in partnering, and then let you take the conversation from there. If you have any questions about this, feel free to reach out to our team. We can go into it in more detail, but it's a very simple system. We'll send out 100 emails, and you'll just find nice introductions from us to local markets and companies, and you can exercise this strategy. Now, if you haven't joined the Lead Exchange, this is part of the Enable platform. But what it does is it makes the referral relationships that much easier. There's two options when it comes to joining the Lead Exchange. You can either join an existing group, so you can partner with other folks, or you can create your own Lead Exchange. Either way, you want to make sure that you're part of a group in order to reduce those customer acquisition costs. If you're creating a group, it's pretty simple. We just need your name, your email, the group name, the group description, and the zip code for where it's located. Once you create that group, it'll be visible on the public site where other people can apply. If they do apply to join your group, you'll get an email that looks something like this with all the details that they've submitted, but it's still going to be your responsibility to add them to the group. And so you'll get these emails, but oftentimes when I see these come through, a lot of companies don't move on to the next step. So make sure that you jump on that. In your partner portal, if you add their email and the type of referral partner they are, you can click Add Member. They'll automatically be part of your Lead Exchange. Now, to help you understand what that means is basically when you have an opportunity report, so let's say you're working on different customers and sales, if you notice when you click on More Info, the Notes section is going to tell you what types of relationships are connected to this particular client. So in this case, you have a Lead Exchange member who is also following their competitor. And so maybe you can leverage their relationship with their competitor to work your way into this particular client. So it's going to look at different commonalities that exist that aren't normally visible to us as sales reps. And so it's going to use advanced AI to look at those commonalities so you can leverage the referral relationships in your network to get into new opportunities. So there's a few different ways that this works. So we look at companies. So if you're tracking the same company, if you're tracking the same competitor or the same neighbor in the building, the AI is going to be able to detect that, and that's what you're going to see in the notes there. So for instance, if your prospect list is on the left and your Lead Exchange member is also tracking Costco, it's going to let you know that. Or if they're tracking a company that's related to that company, or if they have neighbors or anything of that nature, all that is going to show up in your notes so that you can run with that. And then that's really about it. So again, make sure that you're taking advantage of the Lead Exchange. This is what's going to make lowering customer acquisition costs much easier. Also remember that unconventional referral partners enables you to work with local partners, which is more effective than finding the right partner. And that's it for today. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to stick around. Otherwise, I hope everyone has a great weekend. I do see one chat here. So one individual said, I don't do business in my local area. Location has no relevance to what I do. Is there a vertical approach to this or a way to check out other locations? So as far as this is fairly common, working with businesses in different areas. If you don't work locally, then you work with verticals. And so I would recommend specializing in a specific type of vertical. You don't necessarily, the referral partner tool will be generic and reach out to different partners, but you can choose any market that you like. But what happens is local markets are going to be more effective because of the number of commonalities that exist, but that is how that works. Now, One question is about splitting commissions with referral partners. That's a great question. Typically, I wouldn't, but I would, depending on who you're working with, create what we call a job backup commission. And what this is what we found is this is a much better incentive for them to bring you business than anything else. And so rather than giving a 25% haircut and maybe paying them on the side or whatever it may be, because it may be unethical to pay them a commission for business that they send you for services they buy through you. But one thing that we found with referral partners, which is especially relevant to today, is essentially creating a separate bank account and saying, look, we're going to put all the commission for anything that you ever refer to us in this bank account. If anything ever happens to you at your job, which is at high risk right now, then you can use this commission to come and work for me. And so essentially what you're doing is they're going to start building up their own salary so that they can bridge over and start working for you as a sales rep. And that's the way I would recommend it, because essentially you're getting a free employee, which they're going to pay for themselves. And the incentive is different than paying them that 25% commission. And if they never come and work for you, then you can create a clause in the contract to say, after a few years, if you don't use this, I'm just going to start taking this money. But at least you have something there so that it's a better incentive based on my experience than just giving them a check every month. So hopefully that makes sense, Ed. But any other questions before we wrap up? And there's a training that we did on that not too long ago. You can find that on the YouTube page. But again, it's much better to give them a job safety net than it is a monthly commission check. And a lot of times it's a lot more ethical. You don't have to worry about paying people under the table or trying to pay a spouse. It's a stronger incentive overall. And plus you get a free employee at the end of the day, because eventually once that builds up, you can say, look, you got enough here, let's do this. And they're going to be working for you, and they may not have experience, but they have relationships. Any other questions before we wrap up? All right. Well, I think we'll shut it down for now, but thanks again for everyone for joining us today. We'll see you again in 2 weeks. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll see you on the next call. Have a great weekend, everyone. Take care. I'll make sure you get a copy of that, Brett. Take care, everyone.